So stem and leaf plots are a way to organize data by showing the items in order. So we have leaves and we have stems. Okay. I know that may sound confusing. You're like, well, we're not talking about trees, we're talking about math, but it'll make sense in 1 second. So say we have the number 157, okay? Our stem is 15. Our leaf, in this case, is 7. Our leaves are always single digits. So what I mean by that is 15 would go here and 7. But to read that, I would say that's 1, 5, and 7 is 157. So if I were to put 8, and then 4, and 2, and 5, and then another 5, and a 6, to read that, I would say that's 157, 158, 154, 152, 155, 155, 156. It's not one long number. These are all individual numbers right here. So this is our stem right here. So 15, but then what it really means is 157, 158, 154, so on and so forth, right? Okay, so then if I were to go beyond that and I'd say, what about the 160s? What about the 170s? What about the 180s? So then I'd say 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter. Go on like that, and you get the idea. So right here, this says 161, 161, 162, 163, 189, 188, 189, 184, so on and so forth. If I were to do it like this, and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, what do my 1, 2, 3, and 4 represent? You should be able to say that that's like 10, 20, 30, 40. So this would be like, let's make some numbers here. If I were to do that like that, this would say 11, 10, and 12, 24, 25, 26, 37, 49, and 44. And if that's somewhat confusing, we're going to use this in an example, so I hope to clarify that. So here we have a set of data. We have a bunch of numbers, okay? So what we need to identify is that they are actually all in the 2-digit numbers. So we need to have a 0, 1, 2, 3, and it looks like the highest we go to is 41, so we'll say 4. So what this would read is our tens place. In the first tens place we have 0, so those are our numbers actually 0 through 9. Then we have, right here would be 1, so this would be all of our 10 through 19. Over here is 2, so this would be 20 through 29. 3, which would be 30 through 39, and 4, which is 40 through 49. So now I'm going to go through and identify these numbers and cross them off as they occur. So 2 for 25, I'd put a 5 right here. For 7, that's actually like 0, 7. 15, that's like 1, 5. 12, that's like 1, 2. 10 is like 1, 0. 20 is like a 20 is 2, 0 right there. 41, 4 and a 1. 10, I'm going to put another 0 there. 15, put a 5. 1, that's like 0, 1. 12, that's right here. And 15, let's do that like that. Now we've arranged this, but it was still not finished, and we still have to do just a little bit more before we can call it complete. Okay, so here's our set from the last page. But what we need to do now is actually order everything from least to greatest and create a key to show how to read it so everyone can understand what this is looking for. And of course you have to have a title. So we're going to make this line again. And now what I mean is you need to order them from least to greatest. Well, these are already correct. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But now we need to arrange that our 7 and 1 go from least to greatest. So 1 and then 7. With our ones place, we have 0 and then 0. And then we'd have 2 and 2. Then we'd have 5, 5, and 5. For our twos place, we would have 0, then 5. For 3, we don't actually have anything. And we don't write a 0 because the number 30 was not actually in our data set. So we actually just leave that blank. Then for 4, we have a 1. Okay, but like I said, you still need to have a key and a title. Our key would look something like this. So you give an example that's from your stem and leaf plot right here. So right here I chose the bottom one, which was 4 and then a line and then a 1, which means 41. Okay? So that's my key. And you could have picked something else. You could have said like this, 2 and then a line of 0 and then said means 20. So we've made the key, and then like I said, we need to actually have a title. So we call this, let's call it Animal Life Spans. So now our stem and leaf plot has that title, actually has the stem and all the leaves, and then we have our key right there. So let's do another example right here, and I want you guys to practice along with me. So we'll call this one, let's say it's test scores on a recent test. So we're going to make our line to divide our stem and leaves. All right, so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to identify that I have my lowest was 70s, then of course I have 80s, 90s, and I had a 100. Now that one you had to think about because I actually need to put a 10 there because all the rest were actually in the tens places. So we needed something that goes in the 100, so that therefore when we put the leaf on, that would actually read 100. So let's go through our 70s and let's take them out. Right there, there's a 78, there's a 75, there's another 75, and those are all of our 70s. Now let's go through our 80s. We have 86, we have an 89, we have an 88, we have another 89, and we have an 80. Now for our 90s, we have a 94, we have another 94, we have a 92, and we have a 97. Finally, we have one 100. Now remember, that's still not finished because we need to order them from least to greatest and have a key and a title. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up here and out of the way so that we have a little more space to work but can still see that. Now I'm going to make my new line. And I'm going to identify my stems, which are still 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now I'm going to go through my leaves. Okay, 5 and 5, and then 8, because remember, it's least to greatest. 8, I would say that my lowest was a 0, then I have a 6, then I have an 8, then I have 2 9s. 90s, I have a 2, I have 2 4s, and I have a 7, and I still have the 100. Now to read this, again, you would read this as saying the test scores would be 75, 75, 78, 80, 86, 88, 89, 89, and so on. Let's create our title for that, and we'll call that test scores. And now we need to make a key for it, and so we can put something like this. 7, then a line of 5 means 75. Of course, like I said, you could have picked any other number that's visible on that stem and leaf plot. So this big ugly thing right here is actually called a back-to-back stem and leaf plot. What we use it for is to compare two sets of data. And I know it looks a little confusing at first, but it's going to make sense in a second. So first off, we have right across here is our title. It's the winning times for 100 meters dash. We have our women's times and we have our men's times. Now, let's pretend that none of this right here was there at all. And all you saw was from here over. It would look kind of similar to what we've done before. You have our title right here, which says it's the women's times. We have our stem, which is in seconds. We have 9, 10, and 11. So to read this, we'd say 9, and there's nothing. So there were no women that finished in 9 anything. So 9 point nothing occurred. Now we have 10. So 10.5 seconds, 10.8 seconds, 10.8 seconds, and 10.9 seconds. 11.0, so 11 seconds, 11 seconds, 11 seconds, 11.1, 11.1, 11.1, and 11.4 seconds. Then if we read this, we'd say 10.5 means 10.5 seconds. Okay? Now, for the men's, on this side, it's like the same thing, but it's mirrored. And very literally, I mean mirrored, because it's flipped over on its axis. So we go from least to greatest still, but we actually go from right to left. So this we would say 9.8, 9.9, 9.9, 10.0, 10.0, 10.0, 10.1, 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. And there were no men that had anything on the 11 seconds. So then we would still read this as 10.0 means 10.0. Like I said, somewhat confusing, but just kind of look at it, and all it was they took this as like an axis right there, like our y-axis, and then we mirrored it over to the other side and changed the times. But it still goes from least to greatest, except it goes in the opposite direction. So that's one way that's actually kind of useful once you understand it, of comparing two sets of data.